Picture this. It's a crisp, cold morning, November 2005. An administrator for this sprawling online UFO community is probably just, starting their day, maybe coffee in hand, wading through emails.
Well, usual stuff, I imagine. Forum posts, maybe some sighting report.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then, bam, one email stands out. It's signed simply anonymous. And this person claims they're a retired U.S. government employee, someone who is deep inside a so-called special program.
Okay, anonymous. That always gets attention.
Right. And the administrator, who our sources describe as naively curious, has no clue they're looking at what's being claimed as, like, top-tier classified information. Stuff about the last 50 years of American history.
50 years, that's a huge claim.
Huge. Allegedly covering the fallout from Roswell, the crash,
Yeah.
And even, get this, a deal made with extraterrestrials, a deal that supposedly led to some kind of unthinkable interplanetary exchange program.
An exchange program between humans and aliens?
Yeah. So the big question is, what is Project Serpo, and why are we, only hearing these massive claims surface decades later? Okay, let's unpack this.
What's fascinating here right from the start is how these alleged leaks dropped as this raw, unverified data just instantly ignited this firestorm online, a whole community grappling with it.
I bet.
So our mission with this deep dive is really to sift through all the source material we have, try to pull out the key insights, and guide you, our listener, through the alleged events of Project Serpo, and importantly, the controversies.
Because there are controversies.
Yeah.
Big ones.
Oh, absolutely. We're not just looking at the story of this supposed human-alien exchange. We have to critically examine the claims themselves, the counter-arguments, the whole tangled web, in a deep dive into one of the most, persistent and polarizing UFO stories out there.
So it really all kicks off, publicly anyway, with that anonymous email back in 2005. This person, or maybe it was a group, who knows, claiming they were in this special program.
And promising to leak information tied directly to Roswell 1947. And this deal with extraterrestrials.
Imagine being that administrator, just naively curious, and suddenly you're ground zero for potentially the biggest UFO leak ever.
It must have been overwhelming. And this wasn't just some random claim. The email insisted it was highly classified information. From inside the government, the implication was huge. This was the truth about alien contact, hidden for 50 years.
And specifically linking it back to Roswell, saying it all led to this unthinkable interplanetary exchange program. That phrase alone just changes everything, doesn't it?
It really does. It elevates it beyond just, lights in the sky. It suggests a deep, ongoing, covert relationship, a collaboration. That idea alone completely reshaped how many people in that community viewed history.
And the story Anonymous tells, it gets really specific, almost cinematic. It paints this picture, takes us back to 1965, an unspecified U.S. Air Force base.
Setting the scene.
Totally. You can almost feel the tension. Extreme security cameras everywhere, metal detectors, armed guards patrolling. Apparently, even a seasoned security colonel was struck by how intense it was.
Right. Not your average Tuesday at the base.
Not at all. He gets in an elevator, and here's the creepy part. No buttons. It just goes down several floors underground, opens into this secret department of the AFOSI Air Force Office of Special Investigations.
Okay, AFOSI. So serious business.
Very serious. Inside, there are 11 other people already waiting. Air Force, Navy, Army personnel, files on the table, TV screen, ready. It just screams monumental importance, Whatever they're about to see is locked down tight.
That setting really drives home the alleged gravity of it all. Then an Air Force major comes in.
Right.
And lays down the law.
Yeah, he emphasizes the highest classification and confidentiality, and then delivers this warning, apparently quoting directly, less than 60 people in the world are aware of this information. If you report what you are about to see today to anybody unauthorized, you will be charged with high treason.
High treason. That definitely gets your attention. It sets an incredibly high bar for secrecy, which, raises an important question for us right away.
How could something that secret stay secret for so long?
Exactly. For decades. And then, why reveal it like this? Through an anonymous email on some forum, it seems almost counterintuitive. The method of disclosure itself becomes part of the puzzle.
Good point. And the selection process for the team, the 12 people who supposedly went on this exchange, was apparently just as rigorous. The orders came straight from President Kennedy, allegedly.
From JFK himself.
That's the claim. Specific criteria. Military body, at least 4 years in, critically, and this detail really jumps out, no family ties. They actually preferred orphans.
Orphans. Wow. That suggests they wanted people completely isolated, minimizing any potential leaks
Yeah.
or emotional compromises.
Right. It's pretty dark. Plus, they needed extremely high discipline, people who'd already proven themselves in other classified missions, tested under pressure.
Yes, that focus on orphans, on detachment, is striking. It's a calculated move to ensure loyalty and secrecy. So, from hundreds of volunteers, only 12 make the cut. And we even get their designations, don't we?
Yeah, just numbers. Commander 102, Assistant Commander 203, pilots 225 and 308, linguist 420, 475, biologist 518, scientist 633, 661, doctors 700, 754, and security 899.
Reduced to 3 digits. It's that stark depersonalization you see in these kinds of alleged black ops. Their identities basically dissolved, ghosts in the machine, ready for a mission that erases their past.
So team selected, identity scrubbed, secrecy hammered home. Then the major starts the actual briefing, and this is where it goes full side.
Projection screen comes on.
Right. But first, another warning. Non-disclosure notice, threat of high treason again. Then the film starts. The words, 1947, Roswell, New Mexico, first contact. Chilling.
First contact documented.
Allegedly. Old film footage, grainy, showing a disc-shaped object crashed. And then this figure emerges. A small humanoid figure.
The classic description.
Totally. Slender, gray body, short, disproportionately large head, those huge pitch black eyes. The military apparently gave it the designation EBE-1, Extraterrestrial Biological Entity Number 1.
EBE-1.
And this EB-1 was supposedly the only survivor. 5 other bodies were apparently pulled from the wreckage. Imagine seeing that film in that underground room, the weight of it.
And the briefing apparently didn't stop there. It claimed Roswell wasn't the only crash. There was more footage.
Yeah, additional 1949 footage, another UFO crash nearby. This one kept even more secret than Roswell. Apparently no survivors from that second crash.
No survivors, but technology recovered.
Exactly, from both crashes. Advanced technology. And that's crucial, right? Because that becomes the bargaining chip, the whole reason for this alleged exchange in the first place. It sets the stage for everything that follows. So, EBE-1, the survivor from 47, ends up at Los Alamos military base and lives there for 5 years, until 1952.
That's the narrative provided by Anonymous. And during that time, supposedly, it managed to establish some form of communication with our scientists.
But how, if it doesn't speak, English or Russian or anything, how do you even start?
It must have been an immense challenge. The sources describe it as painstaking. EB-1 didn't use words, but tonal variations. Like almost harmonic communication, a sort of high-pitched singing.
Singing? Wow.
Imagine trying to decode that. It took endless attempts, but eventually they supposedly established some dialogue, and EB-1 revealed 2 key things.
Okay, what were they?
One, it was just a simple ship's engineer, implying a whole civilization behind it. And 2, it wasn't the first visitor. Its kind had supposedly been coming to Earth for thousands of years.
Thousands of years. So ancient astronauts, basically. That's a huge bombshell.
A fundamental shift in understanding our own history, if true. And it's during these communications that our scientists supposedly coined the name for its race. The Evens.
The Evens. Okay.
EBE-1 then reveals there's a vital piece of tech in the wreckage. A precious communication device. This leads to the alleged deal.
The quid pro quo.
Exactly. The Eben provides technology and knowledge. Humans help repair the device so it can contact its home planet, which is called Serpo.
Serpo. And Zeta Reticuli. That constellation comes up a lot in UFO lore, doesn't it?
It certainly does. About 40 light years away, it's famously linked to the Barney and Betty Hill abduction case from 1961, among others. So mentioning Zeta Reticuli adds this layer of, well, resonance within the UFO narrative.
Okay. So they try to fix the device, but it doesn't work at first.
Initial attempts failed. But then the breakthrough allegedly came in 1952. They managed to connect the device to the spacecraft's power supply.
And it worked. Stable connection.
Apparently. 6 messages were sent. EBE-1 could understand the replies, partially translated them. They gave directives for rescue, a meeting date. But interestingly, no mention of an exchange program in those early messages. It was all about rescue.
So the exchange idea came later.
Seemingly. But then, tragedy strikes again. EBE-1 dies in the summer of '52.
Oh, wow. So communication stops again. Just like that.
It did, leaving the scientists wondering if the connection was lost for good.
But they didn't give up. Our scientists kept trying.
They persisted, trying to establish a peaceful relationship, hoping for another visit. And apparently, the Ebens were also keen to return. Primarily, the source says, to get the bodies of their comrades back from the 47 and 49 crashes,
Okay, so a shared goal. That makes sense.
which led to this secret meeting. White Sands Missile Range, New Mexico, April 24, 1964.
And this is where that whole identity scrubbing thing comes in, the sheep dip.
Exactly. The major in the briefing described these protocols for absolute secrecy. Participants' identities dissolved, replaced by those 3-digit numbers. Records censored. That whole process was codenamed sheepdip.
Creepy name.
Isn't it? And through that, they officially became members of the overall mission, which was now codenamed Project Crystal Night.
Project Crystal Night. Okay, so sheep dip is the process, Crystal Night is the project.
That seems to be the distinction made in the source material. The level of planning, the intense secrecy from the start. It really underscores the alleged stakes. Monumental.
So, April 64, White Sands. The meeting happens. How did it go down?
Well, the sources describe it dramatically.
Yeah.
2 unidentified flying objects arrive,
Yeah.
bigger than the crash saucers. A welcoming party of 16 senior government and military officials is waiting. Identities kept secret, of course.
Of course.
Evens come out bringing technological discoveries as gifts, a
Yeah.
diplomatic gesture. And among them is a female Eben.
EBE2, the one who could speak English.
That's her. EBE2 could understand and speak English without needing a device.
Yeah.
A huge leap forward from EBE1.
Okay. What else happened at that meeting?
EBE2 reveals this incredible object, the Yellow Book,
The Yellow Book, what was that?
described as a transparent rectangle, maybe 2 inches thick, unknown material. When she looked at it, it activated, showing images of the universe and words just appearing.
Like an alien iPad.
Sort of, but way more advanced, apparently. The content was mind-blowing. Details of the universe, planets, stars, Serpo itself. But the most shocking part,
Yeah.
it detailed the relationship between Eben and humans throughout history and human evolution, suggesting this deep ancient connection we knew nothing about.
Whoa, okay, that's massive. Did they agree to the exchange then?
Actually, no. EBE2 announced the exchange program itself would be postponed. This meeting was just for retrieving the bodies.
Ah, okay, so they handed over the bodies. How many were there?
9 bodies,
Yeah.
reportedly kept in cryostorage. 4 had apparently undergone autopsies here on Earth. They were handed over. And a new date was set for the actual exchange.
When and where?
July 15th, 1965, at the northern part of the Nevada test site. Isolated. Secret.
Okay, so now the clock is ticking for the human team. The preparations must have ramped up like crazy.
Incredibly intensive. Beyond the usual medical checks, they had to pass this positive attitude test. Standard psych evil for special forces, pilots, gauging mental resilience.
But that was just the start, right? The physical and psychological training sounds brutal.
It does. Extreme endurance tests. Designed to simulate the unimaginable. Can you, our listener, even imagine volunteering for this? Being locked in a tiny box.
A 5 by 7 foot box.
Right. And then buried 7 feet underground for 5 days. Minimal food and water. Total darkness. No contact.
That's insane. It's like something out of a horror movie designed to break someone. Who even survives that mentally?
It's extreme conditioning.
Yeah.
Pushing limits to find people with the mental fortitude for deep space, for total isolation on an alien world. But it wasn't just physical.
They had classes, too.
Extensive theoretical lessons, studying everything known about the Eben's anatomy, their tonal language, plus stellar exploration, advanced astronomy, astrophysics. Anonymous even claims they got basic instructions on flying smaller Even ships.
Flying the saucers. Wow, so they were really preparing for anything.
It seems, and here's where it gets really interesting. The training wasn't siloed, it was diversified, making the team multifaceted. So anyone could potentially step into another role if someone died, or if there was a mutiny.
Mutiny? They actually planned for that.
Apparently, yes, a chilling contingency. But this intense shared experience, these trials, it bonded them. They even developed nicknames.
Right, the nicknames. 102 was Skipper. The doctors, 700 and 754, were Doc 1 and Doc 2.
And the pilots, 225 and 308, became Sky King and Flash Gordon. Little bits of humanity surfacing.
Still, you just have to imagine the anxiety and fear, the weight on them. Not just their lives, but maybe Earth's fate if things went wrong.
Absolutely. The pressure must have been immense.
So July 15, 1965, D-Day, or E-Day. The Evans ships arrive.
2 ships, right on schedule, Nevada test site. The welcoming committee this time, much reduced. Extreme secrecy.
And the team is waiting on a bus while trucks unload their gear.
That's the scene described. Anonymous mentions an inventory dock, 90,500 pounds of stuff.
Yeah.
Military gear, medical supplies, research equipment, 5 years worth of food.
5.
And even vinyl records. For a simple but essential entertainment. A touch of home.
Vinyl records on an alien exchange mission. That's kind of amazing. Where did all that gear go?
All loaded onto just one of the 2 ships. Which gives you an idea of the sheer size, the cargo capacity of these things.
Unbelievable. And we have diary excerpts from the team, right? What was the mood?
Yeah, they really capture the moment. We are ready. Team is motivated and cool, really excited about this. The team all say, go, we go. You feel their determination, their excitement, even facing the total unknown.
Well, they board the ship. What was it like inside?
Described as big, 3 levels. Strange-looking walls, almost dimensional. 3 stations with benches, no seats. And they were told, no oxygen, no helmets needed, advanced life support.
Wow. And the final moments.
Gripping. One prayer said, we board the EBE craft. 475 is really nervous. The hatches close. No windows. We can't see out. Then the energy thrusters start up.
And then?
Dizziness, confusion, and they all faint. Just like that. The journey begins unconscious.
Fainting seems to be a theme here, that dizziness and confusion.
It is. It recurs during the transit. After about 6 hours on that initial ship, they transfer to a much larger one, the big ship, filled with many more Ibans.
How big are we talking?
Huge.
Yeah.
Like the inside of a really big building, ceiling about 100 feet high in places, just massive. They're then put into these clear containers or spheres over their chairs, still causing dizziness.
Spheres over their chairs. Weird. How long was the trip supposed to take?
The estimate was 270 of our days to cover 39 light years, which, as Anonymous calculated, implies traveling at something like 40 times the speed of light.
40 times. That's
Yeah.
impossible by our physics, right? Light speed is the limit.
As we understand it, yes. Light takes over 4 years just to reach the nearest star system, getting 39 light years away in 270 days. That requires something beyond our current science. Wormholes, warping space. It's pure sci-fi territory for us. It just highlights the enormous technological gap.
Their sense of time must have been completely shot. Did the diaries mention that?
Definitely. Skipper wrote, our date recorder isn't working very well. 633 thinks we have been going for 10 days, but not really sure. They were mostly confined to a room, eating that paper-tasting food and drinking milky water that tasted like apples.
Apple-flavored water is better than paper food, I guess. Did they see anything else on the big ship?
They got a tour of the engine room.
Whoa! What did that look like?
Large, very large metal containers in a circle. A copper-colored coil in the middle. A bright light shining down onto the coil. No loud noise, just a constant, low, dull hum. Alien engineering.
Sounds incredible. Did they have any idea how it worked?
Well, Scientist 661 apparently theorized it was a negative matter versus positive matter system.
Negative matter. Like antimatter.
Possibly. And what's interesting is how that lines up with claims made years later by Robert Lazar, the guy who said he worked at Area 51 in the 80s, trying to reverse engineer alien craft.
Right. Lazar, element 115 and all that.
Exactly. Lazar talked about antimatter reactions, element 115. Concepts remarkably similar to what 661 supposedly theorized decades earlier on this alleged voyage. It's a striking connection, whether it's coincidence or something else.
Huh. Okay, so after these 270-ish days of apple water and humming engines, they finally arrive.
The journey ends, but with immediate devastating news. The team wakes up still feeling space sick, disoriented.
Yeah.
And they realize someone's missing.
Oh, no. Who?
308. Flash Gordon, the pilot. They find him in a coffin-like bowl, not living. The English-speaking Aben confirms it. He died during the transit.
God, what a horrible way to arrive. Just devastating.
Absolutely heartbreaking. Skipper's diary mentions 899, the security guy, immediately wanting weapons, a natural fear response.
Understandable.
But Skipper calms him down.
No, we don't need guns. No Ebens have been hostile towards us, showing real leadership under pressure. As they prepare to disembark, Doc 700 reminds everyone, sunglasses. The light is intense.
And it was.
Blinding. Almost too much for our eyes without sunglasses. That's their first real sensation of Serpo. Wow. What else did they see when the hatch opened?
A crowd of Ebens waiting silently, including one large Eben, taller than the others, identified as the leader. They're all dressed similarly, gray-white clothes, some variations, and everyone has that strange box on their belts.
The belt boxes. Still a mystery. What about the landing site?
An open arena, like a parade field.
Great.
Just dirt. Clear sky, but with 2 suns, one much brighter. The landscape, stark desert like Arizona or New Mexico. No visible vegetation.
2 suns. Desert planet. Sounds harsh.
Very. They see the central village nearby, structures like electrical towers, and a big central tower with a mirror on top reflecting the suns. The buildings themselves look surprisingly basic, like adobe or mud huts.
Mm-hmm.
A real contrast.
Adobe huts next to interstellar ships. That's bizarre. Any friendly faces?
A big surprise. Someone speaks English. It's EBE2 from the White Sands meeting,
She made the trip too.
apparently. And her English is now almost fluent.
Mm.
A huge relief for communication. She tells the team to put on some device translator, maybe,
Yeah.
and the heat hits them immediately. 633 calculates it. 107 degrees Fahrenheit. Oppressive.
Oof. Where did they go then?
EBE2 leads them to 4 huts. And crucially, an underground storage area, like those military igloos for storing nukes back home. That's where all their gear is.
Safe and sound, hopefully. But what about 308? Flash Gordon's body.
That's the immediate urgent question for Skipper. He asks EB2. Her reaction is unsettling. She seems confused, almost crying, so she has to check with her trainer.
Check with your trainer. That's odd.
Very. It casts this immediate shadow over the arrival. Loss, confusion, and the Eben's strange, almost clinical way of handling death. A jarring welcome to Serpo.
Yeah, that initial experience really sets up this paradox, doesn't it? The Abens seem simple, living in mud huts.
Right, almost primitive in their environment.
Right.
But then they have this incredibly advanced technology. Interstellar travel, complex devices.
And EB2 seemed compassionate about 308's death, but the overall handling was weird. Clinical.
Exactly. That contrast is key. Their first night, which isn't really night because of the 2 suns, was rough. Heat, constant light, dust blowing everywhere. They learned Abens don't sleep like us. They just rest for periods.
Adapting must have been brutal. And the food. Still paper.
Still paper tasting food, served in a communal area where the Abens just stared at them constantly. A reminder that they were the aliens here, the ones under observation.
Creepy. And then things got even weirder. They saw another type of being.
Totally unexpected. They spotted this different-looking Eben, a very strange-looking creature. Long arms, long legs, seemed to almost float. Definitely not like the Ebens they'd met.
So not an even.
EBE2 confirms it. No Eben, just visitor, like you, she says, pointing right at the human team member, a gelling comparison.
A visitor. From where?
She shows them on this television glass space map, points to a planet called Corda, the visitor's home, then points to Earth. Says they're very close galactically.
Corta, and this visitor looked like a mantis. That's another common alien type in encounter reports.
It is uncannily similar to descriptions of mantis beings, which implies Serpo isn't isolated. It's potentially this cosmopolitan, peaceful hub where other species come and go. Adds a whole new dimension.
A galactic crossroads, maybe?
Yeah.
Wild. What else did they learn about how the Ebens lived day to day, that central tower with the mirror?
Ah, yes, the sundial. It wasn't just decorative. EBE2 explained how it worked. When the light from the 2 suns hit certain symbols on the ground around it, the Ebens change what they are doing and do something else.
Like clockwork,
Wow.
dictated by the suns.
Precisely. An incredibly structured, almost programmed day. And here's a real aha moment. Their average IQ is supposedly 165, significantly higher than humans.
Super intelligent.
Yes, but, and this is key, they apparently do not show any kind of individuality and creativity. They just follow the routine. Lifelong. No deviation.
Wait, high IQ but no creativity. That seems contradictory to us.
It challenges our whole definition of advancement, doesn't it? It suggests maybe innovation isn't the only path for a stable, advanced society. That intelligence and creativity aren't automatically linked everywhere. For them, this rigid structure is normality.
Mind-bending. So, this structured life, how many Ebens are there? Is it a huge population?
Surprisingly small, estimated around 650,000. Living in these small communities, like neighborhoods, often near large factories, each community seems specialized, but all follow that same clock tower routine.
And their society, how is it organized? Like ours.
More like ancient civilizations, apparently. Knowledge is tightly controlled. Only certain groups learn writing. Engineers control physics. Doctors control biology. A niche of Ebens who are eagerly jealous of information, guarding their specializations. The average Eben just does their job.
No TVs, no internet, I guess. What about those belt boxes?
No Earth-style entertainment, just that strange box positioned on their belt, which, chillingly, seem to control their actions, their routines, like a remote control for the population.
Seriously, that's disturbing. Who's in charge then? A king? A president?
Governed by a council of governors, but no defined form of government like ours. No crime reported. But they do have a military force without weapons, suggesting maybe social control or order maintenance. It's all very centralized, very controlled, no money, no trade.
Wow. What about families? Homes? Did Skipper's diary mention that?
It did. Homes made of some unknown materials similar to both wood and metal, and they're all identical inside and out. 4 rooms, bedroom, food prep, waste room, and a family room.
Very standardized. And families.
Simple. Male-female partners, they reproduce in a limited way. Team never saw families bigger than 4. Suggests population control. Kids grow very quickly and are isolated during childhood. Then their skills are analyzed to slot them into the right job. Very functional, almost engineered.
Engineer society. Okay.
Yeah.
But things took a darker turn after 308 Flash Gordon died, right? With his body.
Yes, this is where the most unsettling truths started coming out. The Evans just took 308's body, no permission, no explanation. Skipper kept demanding it back.
And the leader, EB3.
Described as larger and more aggressive. Had a harsh voice and attitude. Very different from EVE2. And then came this deeply concerning request.
The blood samples.
Exactly. The leader wanted blood samples from all the humans. Doc 700 and Doc 754 were immediately suspicious, especially since they learned all 308's blood had already been taken. They suspected it was for other purposes. Things got tense.
I can imagine a confrontation.
Yes. Skipper confronted EB3 and EB2. EB2 was reportedly begging them to wait, clearly uncomfortable. Then they were sent to another Eben, a doctor.
Another one.
This one spoke very good English, but had a strange-sounding voice, and he delivered the really chilling news.
What did he say?
He explained that even scientists have done experiments with 308's body, called it an honor to have such a specimen.
An honor? Oh my God.
And then the bombshell. They used 308's body to create a type of cloned human being. Said all the blood and organs were taken out and used to clone other beings. That word beings really scared the team.
Cloned other beings. Using his organs. That's horrifying. Did they ever see his original body?
Skipper demanded to see it. The doctor just said very little was left. So what does this all mean? It completely shatters that image of benevolent aliens, doesn't it? Radically. It exposes this utilitarian, ethically alien side to them. They were then taken to a laboratory facility, looked like a large, single-story, windowless school from the outside.
Inside.
Inside was pure horror. Rows of glass bathtubs filled with strange-looking bodies, not human bodies.
Yeah.
Hideous-looking creatures.
Oh, God. What kind of creatures?
The doctor explained they were from other planets, brought there alive for experiments. EDE2 tried to soften it, saying they were considered animals. But then the doctor made a distinction.
What's a distinction?
That there were also intelligent creatures, beings in the building. But he insisted those ones were dead when they arrived, implying this systematic collection.
This is nightmarish. Were there descriptions of these creatures?
Graphic descriptions, porcupine-like. One with a large head, deep eyes, no ears, no teeth, no feet, no fingers. Another with blood-red, scaly skin, spots for eyes, no arms or legs. Even one that looked human-like but distorted white wrinkled skin, large head, thin chest, curled limbs. True alien horrors.
Unbelievable. Were any alive?
They were then shown a hospital room, beds with living beings in them. The doctor said these were grown using certain parts of other beings, bioengineering beyond our comprehension and seemingly beyond our ethics.
Grown beings. So what was the final horror on this tour?
The confirmation about 308. The doctor showed them a large Eben that had been grown using Flash Gordon's blood and cells. This creature had hands and legs similar to humans, a grotesque hybrid.
No, that's monstrous. How did the team react?
Profoundly distressed, shaken. EB2 seemed genuinely concerned by their horror. It forced this awful realization. The Ebens are not the humane civilization we thought they were. Not benevolent guys, but something else entirely.
Exactly. But here's the kicker. Skipper noted they didn't hide anything. The doctor spoke straight to us. They don't know how to lie.
That raises such a disturbing question, doesn't it? Is there lack of deception, innocence, or just a complete lack of understanding of our ethics? A fundamentally alien moral framework where using specimens is an honor, not desecration. It really challenges what humane even means across species.
A chilling thought indeed. But despite all that darkness, the mission continued. They adapted.
They did. After about 2 years, they got used to Serpo time, that 43-hour Eben day. They gathered immense planetary data. Diameter, 7,218 miles. Massachusetts, 5.06 by 124 kilograms. 2 suns, 2 moons. Gravity slightly higher than Earth's, and 865 Earth day year.
They even learned about another inhabited planet nearby. Silas?
Yes, in Zeta Reticuli, populated by Trenaloids. They estimated Serpo's age at 3 billion years, but even civilization at only 10,000 years, suggesting they weren't native, maybe came after an exodus from somewhere else. Another mystery. and they found vast underground water networks.
So the geologists on the team kept busy mapping everything.
Meticulously, divided the planet into hemispheres, quadrants, found most ebens lived near the equator. The south had volcanic areas, chemical-rich water, alkali flats, badlands.
And that's where they met the hostile armadillo thing.
Right. Scared off by an Eben sonic beam weapon, non-lethal tech. The equator was mostly desert with some vegetation, wells providing water they had to boil.
But the north was different. Little Montana.
A major change. More temperate, evergreen-style trees that the Ebens actually milked. Alien agriculture.
Milked trees. Okay. What about animals? Any dangerous ones besides the armadillo?
Fauna was less varied than Earth. A timid ox-like creature, a curious mountain lion type. But in the south, they found a very long and large creature, like a snake, that was deadly.
Deadly.
Yes, the only time they reportedly used their weapons was to kill one of these. It had almost human-like eyes, a big brain, unique organs, a true enigma. They also found eel-like creatures in the water, maybe related, and even a small jungle near some marshes.
So a complex ecosystem, even if harsh. How did the team hold up physically and mentally through all this? People got sick.
Everyone got sick at some point. Doc 754 was hit hard but recovered with penicillin. They kept up physical fitness. Mentally, incredibly resilient. Some missed Earth, naturally, but the sources claim no team member has broken down. Remarkable fortitude.
But not everyone survived the stay on Serpo itself. There were deaths.
Sadly, yes. 899 security died first. An accident, a fatal fall. The Ebens held a ceremony, showed affection. The humans reciprocated. Then sometime later, 754 Doc 2 died of pneumonia, a reminder of their vulnerability.
So 2 more died on Serpo after 308 died en route. That's 3 lost. How did the Ebens view death?
They observed even religious rituals daily, unified. For Ebens, death wasn't sorrowful, but the liberation of the soul, a cause for jubilation. Very different perspective.
Jubilation. Wow. Did the team stay in the desert the whole time?
No. After many years, long after 754's death, the remaining members moved north for that milder climate. The Ebens actually built them a small community there. Their research shifted more to geology and theory then. Still working, still dedicated.
Incredible dedication. So eventually they came home.
August 18th, 1978. After 13 years on Serpo, not the planned 10,
13 years. Who came back?
only 7 members returned.
7. What happened to the others? There were 12 originally, minus the 3 who died. That leaves 9.
2 others deliberately decided not to return. They chose to stay on Serpo, live out their lives there.
Chose to stay. Wow, okay. So America buried 3 coffins, but only 2 were full.
A somber accounting. The 7 survivors were quarantined for a year, hidden by AFOSI until 1984. Their debriefing was massive. Over 3,000 pages of reports, thousands of audio tapes, photos.
Where is all this supposed evidence now?
Anonymous claimed it's in the DIA vault at Bolling Air Force Base. He also claimed the survivors eventually died in the 80s from radiation exposure, except Skipper, who supposedly lived until 2002 in complete anonymity.
Okay, so that's the incredible story as told by Anonymous. But then the story turns, right? The controversy explodes online.
It completely unravels into this torrent of conflicting information, a total online firestorm. Supporters versus detractors.
Yeah.
Huge arguments. Why lie? Who was anonymous?
And they found out. Hackers traced the accounts.
They did. At least 5 accounts, including the main anonymous one, all traced back to one guy, Rick Doty.
Rick Doty. And he has a reputation.
A very controversial one.
Yeah.
Former Air Force intelligence officer, known for specializing in spreading UFO disinformation, linked to stories like the Dulce base. His alleged MO, mix real UFO research with lies to clog up the UFO community, ridicule it from within, deliberate sabotage.
So the source of this amazing story is a known disinformer. That throws massive doubt on everything, doesn't it?
It certainly complicates things immensely. Doty himself admits participating in disinformation campaigns, but also insists some things like Roswell, underground bases, even Project Crystal Night are real. It's a murky picture.
And stories of an alien exchange existed before Doty, you said.
They did. Variations going back to the 50s. Adding another layer, this user Chapman, claiming ties to the British MOD, said he saw Serpo docs, but that Anonymous's version didn't exist in legitimate files.
So Chapman called BS. Did he have another explanation?
He suggested the story originated with sci-fi author Alice Bradley Sheldon, who had Intel CIA ties. Chapman's theory. Serpo was a Cold War psyop.
A psyop to fool the Soviets.
Exactly. A counteroffensive in the 60s to make the Soviets think the U.S. had alien tech in contact. Pure psychological warfare. It supposedly fizzled out when the KGB got suspicious, only to be revived by Doty later to sow confusion.
Okay, so we have this incredibly detailed, immersive story from Anonymous, potentially sourced from a known disinformer, versus a theory that it was all a Cold War trick. It's maddening.
It is. You're left asking, what if Doty, just this once, was telling the truth? If he wanted to leak real info, why create fake profiles and undermine himself?
And the evidence. There's no smoking gun, is there? No public proof of Serpo or Crystal Knight?
No real, tangible evidence, no ship, no tech shown publicly. But, and this is the crucial part that keeps the debate alive, there's also no hard evidence that can demolish it definitively, beyond Doty's reputation and Chapman's claims.
And there are still whistleblowers, former insiders who supposedly back the story.
That's the claim. Multiple sources allegedly supporting its veracity behind the scenes. Plus, things like the Barney and Betty Hill abduction, the Zeta Reticuli link, it all feeds into this persistent narrative.
So is everyone lying? Just chasing fame? Or could there be a grain of truth buried under all the noise, the disinformation, the secrecy? It leaves you hanging, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. And regardless of whether you believe Project Serpo happened or not, thinking about the sheer scale of the universe kind of puts it all in perspective.
How so?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, astronomers estimate our galaxy alone has maybe 300 billion stars, and maybe 5 billion solar systems like ours within that.
Billions.
Of those, maybe 10 million could have the right conditions for life. Maybe 1,000 could have seen basic bacterial life emerge.
Still huge numbers.
And even using a worst-case scenario estimate, maybe life on 50 of those planets could have evolved into complex, intelligent organisms, developed civilizations.
50 potential civilizations just based on the worst case in our galaxy.
Potentially. And if you take the most pessimistic hypothesis for technologically advanced civilization, say, only 0.1% of galaxies host them, and multiply that by the estimated 500 billion galaxies we can observe.
What number do you get?
You still end up with potentially 50,000 technologically advanced civilizations currently exist in the universe. 50,000, minimum. Even as a purely statistical exercise, it's mind-boggling.
50,000, yeah. Okay, that definitely makes you think. The next time you look up at the night sky, at all those stars, remember, they could be looking back at you too. Keep exploring, keep diving deep.